I didn't know that, at that very barbecue, she'd betray me in the worst way imaginable. I had the whole evening planned. A private dinner at the same rooftop restaurant where we celebrated our first anniversary. A bottle of wine she loved. The kind of night that reminded us why we chose each other. But none of it mattered. Because she chose the barbecue. My brother, Ryan, had decided, without consulting me, to throw a last-minute barbecue party. On my wedding anniversary. And my wife, Lisa, decided that grilled steaks and cheap beer were more important than the day we promised forever. When I reminded her, she scoffed. "You were being dramatic," she said, rolling her eyes. "We can celebrate another night. Ryan only does this once a year." I should have seen it then, the way she dismissed me, the way she never even hesitated. But I wanted to believe that I still mattered. That our marriage still mattered. I didn't go to the barbecue. I told her I had work to catch up on, but that was a lie. I just couldn't stomach the idea of sitting around a fire pit, pretending everything was fine while my wife ignored me. Instead, I stayed home, staring at the half-melted candles I lit for an anniversary dinner that never happened. Hours passed, and I tried not to check my phone. But curiosity, or maybe something darker, got the better of me. I opened her location tracker. We'd shared it for safety, or so she claimed. She wasn't at Ryan's house. Not anymore. My heart sank, but my mind raced ahead, piecing together things I'd ignored for months, the late-night texts she never let me see, the sudden work events she couldn't explain, the way she'd flinch when I touched her like she used to. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe she'd just left early. Maybe she was with friends. Maybe. But I already knew. It wasn't the barbecue she'd stayed for. It was my brother. I didn't rush. There was no frantic scramble, no dramatic peeling out of the driveway like in the movies. Just a quiet, deliberate motion, keys in hand, door locked behind me, engine humming beneath my fingertips. The drive to Ryan's house felt longer than usual, though I knew every turn by heart. The streetlights cast long shadows across the empty roads, flickering like they were winking at some cruel joke only I wasn't in on. Halfway there, I started rehearsing what I'd say. Would I confront her? Would I hit Ryan? Would I demand explanations, or just stand there like some pathetic fool, watching the two people closest to me pretend they didn't destroy my life? But when I pulled up, her car wasn't there. She'd left already. A tight, bitter smile crept across my face. She wasn't even trying to hide it. I called Ryan. No answer. I called her. Straight to voicemail. The pieces were falling into place now, clear and sharp as glass shards, and I was walking barefoot right through them. But I wasn't bleeding yet. Not yet. I didn't go home. I just sat there in my car, engine idling, mind racing. My gut was screaming something my heart wasn't ready to hear. Then I remembered something. Weeks ago, Lisa had let it slip. Some offhand comment about a cheap motel near the edge of town, joking about how gross it was when coworkers used it for quick affairs. The way she'd laughed. Too hard, too forced. It clicked. I drove there without thinking, headlights cutting through the darkness like a blade. The parking lot was nearly empty, but her car was there, tucked in the back, hidden like a secret she thought no one would find. I parked a few spots away, heart pounding, fingers gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to leave, to pretend I hadn't seen it. But the other part, the part she'd been slowly killing with every lie, wanted the truth. I stepped out, walked quietly, like I was the one doing something wrong. The neon sign flickered above me, casting everything in a sick, red glow. Room 14. The curtains were drawn, but the faintest sliver of light leaked through the edge. And then I heard it, voices. Hers. Ryan's. Laughter, muffled but unmistakable. That was the moment something in me snapped. But I didn't knock. Not yet. I didn't knock. I didn't kick the door down. I didn't scream. Instead, I pulled out my phone. I crept closer, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears, and angled the camera toward the narrow gap between the curtain and the window frame. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to see her. Lisa. My wife. Straddling my brother like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her head tilted back, laughing at something he whispered. Her wedding ring catching the dim light, glinting like it was mocking me. I hit record. I don't know how long I stood there, filming. Maybe a minute. Maybe 5. Time stopped making sense. My hands were steady, though. No shaking, No tears. Just cold, mechanical focus. When I had enough, I stepped back, tucked my phone into my pocket, and walked to my car. I didn't confront them that night. No, that would have been too easy for them. Too emotional. I had a better idea. I'd let the truth fester. Let it rot beneath the surface until it was impossible to ignore. Because revenge isn't about the moment. It's about the aftermath. The next morning, I made her coffee. Just the way she liked it, 2 sugars, a splash of cream. She walked into the kitchen, hair still damp from a shower, wearing the same smug indifference she always did after a night out. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just spent our anniversary desecrating our vows in a cheap motel bed with my own brother. "Morning," she chirped, scrolling through her phone. "Morning," I replied, handing her the mug with a smile that felt too easy, too natural. She didn't suspect a thing. I spent the next few days like that, playing the role of the oblivious husband. Sweet, attentive, patient. Every time she lied about where she'd been, I'd nod, pretending to believe her. But behind the mask, I was planning. I compiled everything, the video, text messages I managed to pull from her synced laptop, even old photos she thought she'd deleted. A digital dossier of her betrayal, neat and organized. Then I started planting seeds. Casual conversations with friends, slipping in hints about Ryan's behavior. A few carefully crafted comments to our family group chats, subtle enough to be overlooked but suspicious enough to stick. I wanted the foundation of her perfect little world to crack before I tore it down. Because the best revenge isn't loud. Ryan texted me that weekend, like nothing was wrong. "Barbecue at my place again. You in?" I stared at the message for a long time, the irony almost laughable. The man who screwed my wife inviting me over for burgers and beer like we were still brothers. I replied, "Wouldn't miss it." This wasn't just another barbecue. This was going to be the stage. The perfect audience, friends, family, people who thought they knew us. I wanted witnesses. I wanted her lies to shatter in front of everyone. In the days leading up to it, I played my part flawlessly. I was the loving husband, the loyal brother. I even joked with Lisa about what to bring. She laughed, oblivious, completely unaware that her world was already unraveling. But behind the scenes, I made my moves. I printed the photos. Screenshots of their texts, time-stamped and undeniable. Still frames from the motel footage, nothing explicit, just enough to tell the story. I slid them into envelopes, each labeled with a name: Mom, Dad, friends, cousins. I was surgical about it. No outbursts, no confrontation. Just quiet precision. Because when the truth hits, it hits harder when no one sees it coming. And they never saw me coming. The day of the barbecue was perfect, sunny skies, warm breeze, laughter echoing from the backyard. The kind of day people post about with captions like "family is everything." I arrived with Lisa, hand in hand, the picture of a devoted husband. She wore a summer dress, light and carefree, like her conscience was as spotless as the smile she flashed at everyone. Ryan greeted me with a grin, slapping my back like he wasn't stabbing at every chance he got. "Glad you made it, bro." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, hiding the venom behind my teeth. The yard was packed, family, friends, neighbors. The perfect audience. I could feel the weight of the envelopes in my bag, each one a grenade with the pin already pulled. But I didn't rush. I helped set up, flipped burgers on the grill, laughed at jokes. I watched Lisa steal glances at Ryan when she thought I wasn't looking. I watched Ryan avoid my gaze just enough to confirm everything I already knew. When the moment felt right, I stood up, tapped my glass with a fork, and smiled as everyone turned to look at me. "I just wanted to say a few words," I began, my voice steady, calm, like this was just another toast. But this wasn't a toast. It was an execution. Everyone fell silent, their faces glowing under the lazy afternoon sun. Lisa stood beside me, her hand lightly resting on my arm, unaware it was the last time she'd ever touched me like that. "I want to thank everyone for being here," I started, scanning the crowd, familiar faces, genuine smiles. Perfect. Family means everything, right? I glanced at Ryan, who gave a smug nod, sipping his beer. Lisa smiled, that same fake smile she'd been practicing for months. I reached into my bag, pulling out the neatly stacked envelopes, my fingers grazing the edges like they were sharp enough to cut. "I've got a little something for everyone." Just a small gift to show how much you all mean to me." I began handing them out, one by one, careful to mask the rising tension with polite laughter. Ryan looked curious. Lisa shifted slightly, that perfect smile twitching at the corners. "Don't open them yet," I said, holding up my hand. "Let's all do it together." Once everyone had their envelope, I raised my glass. "To love," I said, my voice clear. "To loyalty. And to the truth, because no matter how well you hide it, the truth always shows up." I took a sip. "Go ahead." The sound of ripping paper was followed by silence. Then confusion. Then the sharp, collective gasp I had been waiting for. Photos. Screenshots. Pieces of their affair scattered like ashes across the crowd. I turned to Lisa, her face drained of color, her mouth opening but no words coming out. Ryan stood frozen, beer slipping from his hand, splashing uselessly onto the grass. I leaned in close, just enough for her to hear. "Happy anniversary." The silence didn't last. It shattered like glass. Voices rose, confused, angry, horrified. My mother's trembling gasp, my father's sharp curse, the murmurs spreading like wildfire through the crowd. People flipped through the photos, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others staring at Lisa and Ryan like they were strangers. Lisa finally found her voice. "This isn't what it looks like," she blurted, her face contorted with panic. I laughed. Not out of humor, but something darker, colder. "Oh? Because it looks exactly like you fucking my brother." Ryan tried to step in, stammering some half-baked excuse. "It was a mistake, man. It just happened." I turned to him, the smile gone from my face. Mistakes are forgetting an anniversary. This was a choice. Lisa's desperation kicked in. "We can talk about this privately," she hissed, grabbing my arm. I pulled away. "Why? You didn't keep it private." The crowd was still frozen, some trying to look away, others glued to the wreckage like it was a car crash they couldn't unsee. And that's when I twisted the knife. "I've already filed for divorce," I announced, my voice steady. "I've got the evidence. The lawyers. Everything. You're done." Lisa's face crumbled, the reality sinking in. But I wasn't finished. "Oh, and Ryan? You might want to tell your girlfriend why you've been working late." I sent her a copy too. Ryan's jaw clenched, his face turning as pale as Lisa's. The party was over. But the real fun was just beginning. The crowd scattered like leaves in the wind, whispers trailing behind them, carrying fragments of our shattered lives. Some avoided looking at me altogether, while others gave those pity-filled glances I despised. Ryan's girlfriend, Emma, stormed in halfway through the chaos. I'd made sure of that, timed the delivery of her envelope perfectly. She held the crumpled pages in her shaking hands, her eyes darting from him to me. "You were fucking disgusting," she spat at Ryan, her voice trembling with rage. "With her? Your brother's wife?" Ryan tried to reach for her, mumbling pathetic apologies, but she shoved him so hard he stumbled back, nearly tripping over a tipped-over lawn chair. Lisa was still in shock, her face twisted between fury and fear. She lunged toward me, grabbing my wrist. "You think this makes you better than me? You're a spiteful piece of shit." I leaned in, my face inches from hers, my voice low enough that only she could hear. "No, Lisa. This makes me free." I yanked my arm away and walked to the cooler, casually grabbing a beer like we weren't standing in the ruins of what used to be our life. I popped it open, took a slow sip, and let the silence choke her. Ryan followed me, his face red with rage now. "You could have talked to me like a man." I laughed bitterly. "A man? You don't get to talk about being a man. Men don't fuck their brother's wife." He swung at me then, sloppy, fueled by humiliation more than anger. I dodged easily, letting him stumble past me. "Try harder, Ryan," I muttered, shaking my head. Lisa screamed at both of us, tears finally falling, not from guilt, but from the collapse of everything she thought she had control over. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just revenge. This was liberation. I left them there, Lisa screaming, Ryan fuming, Emma sobbing. I didn't need to stay and watch the rest. Their world was crumbling, and I'd already lit the match. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. The lies, the gaslighting, the hollow apologies, it was all behind me now. But I wasn't done. Revenge isn't just about the spectacle. It's about the ripple effect. The slow burn, The consequences that keep unfolding long after the dust settles. I'd already filed for divorce, but I made sure to drain our joint accounts the day before. Every penny legally mine, thanks to some financial maneuvering she never saw coming. The house. In my name. The car? Mine too. Lisa had nothing left but the clothes on her back and the reputation she destroyed. Ryan wasn't any better off. Emma made sure of that. She aired out every dirty secret he tried to hide, sending screenshots to his job, his friends, even his gym buddies. Turns out, people don't respect a man who can even be loyal to his own brother. I watched it all unfold from a distance, never engaging, never responding to their desperate texts or calls. Because the ultimate revenge is indifference. It didn't take long for Lisa's life to spiral. She tried to save face, of course, posted cryptic quotes about growth and self-love, pretending she wasn't drowning. But the truth has a way of leaking through the cracks, and hers flooded fast. She lost her job within weeks. Office gossip spreads faster than wildfire, especially when screenshots and whispered rumors fuel the flames. Her carefully curated image of the strong, independent woman crumbled under the weight of her own deceit. Ryan didn't fare any better. Emma wasn't content with just walking away, she wanted blood. She sent his dirty laundry to everyone he knew, his boss, his clients, even our parents. Turns out, companies don't like employing someone with a reputation for betrayal. Unemployed. Alone. Publicly humiliated. But here's the thing, none of that satisfied me. Not really. Because revenge isn't just about watching them fall. It's about knowing they'll never stand back up the same way. One night, Lisa showed up at my apartment. She looked nothing like the woman I married, makeup smeared, hair tangled, desperation clinging to her like a second skin. "Can we talk?" she whispered, her voice brittle. I didn't say a word. Just closed the door in her face. Not out of anger. Out of apathy. Ignoring her wasn't enough. Lisa kept trying, texts, calls, even letters slipped under my door. Each one dripping with half-hearted apologies, twisted justifications, and pathetic pleas for closure. She didn't want closure. She wanted control. So, I gave her something she couldn't ignore. I compiled everything, the motel footage, the texts, the timeline of her betrayal, into a neat little package. But this time, it wasn't for friends or family. It was for her parents. She'd always cared about appearances, desperate for their approval. She'd crafted a flawless image, the dutiful daughter, the perfect wife. I shattered it with one email. No dramatic message, no explanation. Just the cold, hard evidence. Her father replied within hours. A single sentence. "Thank you for showing us the truth." That was it. Lisa's world didn't just collapse. It disintegrated. She showed up again a week later, banging on my door, her face a mask of rage and despair. "You ruined my life," she screamed. I opened the door just enough to look her in the eye. "No, Lisa. You did." And I closed it for the last time. After that day, I never saw Lisa again. She vanished from my life like a shadow fading at dawn. No more texts. No more calls. Just silence, the kind that echoes louder than any scream. But silence doesn't mean peace. I still saw the wreckage in her absence. Heard whispers through mutual friends, glimpsed the aftermath she couldn't outrun. She'd moved into a dingy apartment across town, jobless, estranged from her family, her social circle reduced to strangers who didn't know who she really was. Ryan wasn't any better. Last I heard, he was couch surfing, burning bridges faster than he could build them. Emma made sure his reputation followed him like a bad tattoo, and every failed job interview was a reminder of the man he'd become, or maybe always was. And me? I thrived. I got promoted at work, traveled more, even picked up hobbies I'd long forgotten. There was no dramatic healing journey, no poetic self-discovery. Just simple, quiet freedom. People think revenge is about rage, about burning everything down. But it's not. It's about walking away from the ashes without looking back. Because the real victory isn't in their destruction. It's in your survival. Months passed. Then a year. Life settled into a rhythm, the sharp edges of betrayal dulled by time and distance. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I'd catch myself thinking about it, not with anger, but curiosity. How did it happen? How did the woman I married become the stranger I exposed? The answer was simple, she always had been. I just refused to see it. People don't change overnight. They reveal themselves in small ways, a dismissive glance, a careless lie, the way they laugh at your vulnerability. I've mistaken comfort for love, routine for loyalty. But love isn't supposed to make you question your worth. And Ryan? I'd spent so long seeing him as my brother that I ignored the warning signs, the envy hidden behind forced smiles, the subtle digs disguised as jokes. Betrayal didn't change him. It exposed him. The funny thing is, I'm grateful now. Not because of what they did, but because of what it taught me. I learned that survival isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. And I let go. Of them. Of the pain. Of everything that kept me chained to a past that never deserved me.